The turkey had been resting for 12 minutes. Margaret knew this because she had been the one to pull it from the oven, the one to tent the foil, the one to set the timer on her phone so nobody would carve too early and lose the juices. Small competencies, the kind that go unnoticed until they stop. The table was full. Her mother-in-law, Diane, sat at the far end with the particular stillness of someone who already knows the punchline. Margaret had noticed it when they arrived. That compressed quality around Diane's mouth, something held in reserve. She had filed it away and kept moving. There were rolls to warm. There were children underfoot. Her husband Daniel had been quieter than usual since noon. Not the quiet of someone subdued but the quiet of someone rehearsed. Colin arrived late, the way she always did, with a bottle of wine she didn't bring last year and an apology that asked for more attention than the offense. She was Daniel's younger sister by 4 years. She and Margaret had always maintained the particular politeness of two people who had agreed, wordlessly, never to know each other well. They sat, someone said grace. The dishes moved around the table. It happened between the sweet potatoes and the cranberry sauce. Colin set down her wine glass, reached across the table, and placed her hand over Daniel's. Not beside it, over it, and she said, with a clarity that silenced the room in layers, children first, then adults, that she was pregnant. She said it was Daniel's. She said Diane already knew there was a sound from one of the children. Quickly absorbed by the silence that followed, Margaret watched her nephew reach for a dinner roll and then stop, sensing something he couldn't name. He was 7. He set the roll back down. Margaret looked at Daniel. He was looking at the table. She looked at Colleen. Colleen was looking at her with an expression that had prepared itself for tears, for shouting, for the operatic version of this moment. She had dressed for a confrontation and arrived at the wrong kind of quiet. Margaret picked up her fork. Then she set it back down, not dramatically, the way you set something down when you've simply decided you're no longer hungry. She excused herself, walked to the kitchen and stood at the window above the sink for a long moment, watching the wind move through the backyard trees. The leaves were gone. Just branches, she thought, without particular emotion, about how much of her adult life had been organized around keeping things from falling apart. The businesses, the accounts, the refinancing she had arranged 2 years ago when Daniel's contracting company ran into trouble, using her name, her credit, her signature on documents he had never fully read. She had never mentioned that to Diane. She had never mentioned it to anyone. The days that followed were not loud, that surprised people later, the ones who heard versions of the story. They expected fire. What they got was Margaret, moving through her own house with the methodical composure of someone completing a project. She called her attorney on Monday, not a family mediator. Her attorney, a woman named Patricia who had done her estate planning 3 years prior, and who listened to Margaret's account of the table, the hand, the announcement with the attentive silence of someone already sorting information into categories. The business accounts, Patricia said, walk me through the structure. Margaret walked her through it. All of it, the refinancing. The personal guarantee she had signed. The line of credit extended in her name that Daniel's company had been drawing against for 18 months. The repayment schedule that existed on paper and had not been followed. Patricia was quiet for a moment. He doesn't know you know the full picture, she said. He thinks I manage the household, Margaret said. He stopped distinguishing between the two a long time ago. The meeting happened on a Wednesday 3 weeks after Thanksgiving. It was not arranged by Margaret, not exactly. It was arranged by the bank, which had been patient about the repayment schedule and had reached a point where patience required documentation. Daniel arrived expecting to manage it the way he managed most things. With charm, with a handshake, with the assumption that the person across the table would extend him the benefit of the doubt one more time. What he found instead was Patricia, seated beside Margaret, with a folder of documents that had been organized the way Margaret organized most things. Quietly, thoroughly, and well in advance. The bank's position was straightforward. The line of credit was secured by Margaret's personal guarantee. Any restructuring of the debt, any continuity of the business would require her cooperation, her signature, her agreement. Daniel looked at Margaret across the conference room table the way he had not looked at her in years, with the specific attention of someone who has just realized they misread a room. She did not look away. She also did not perform anything for the moment. No satisfaction, no grief, just the steady, unremarkable presence of a woman who had spent years being the operational center of something that had never acknowledged her as such. She signed nothing that day. She told the bank she would need 30 days to review her options. The divorce was filed in January. Colleen's pregnancy continued. Diane called twice and Margaret let it go to voicemail. The business restructured without Margaret's guarantee, which meant it restructured smaller. Daniel managed. People usually do. What Margaret kept in the end was not dramatic. The house, because it had always been in her name. A quieter schedule. The habit of sitting at the kitchen table in the morning with coffee and the particular stillness of someone who is no longer braced for something. Her nephew, the 7-year-old, asked her at Christmas why she seemed different. She thought about it honestly. I stopped waiting, she said. He nodded as though that explained something. Maybe it did.